Hi, I'm Arthur, and today we get to what may be the most space marine-y of all the space marines. The Imperial Fists, literally the butter on toast of all the marines. They're as close to plain as humanly possible, and to be honest, I think it's perfect for them. To give you an idea of what I'm talking about, I think the best way to visualize it is I'm going to classify some of the legions I've already covered as weapons, just to kind of give you an idea. So I'd say the Emperor's Children would be a finely crafted saber, beautiful and efficient. The Space Wolves are a double-headed axe, dangerous, requiring a lot of brute force to use effectively. The Iron Warriors are a great hammer, fucking unusable in some encounters, but with enough gusto you could probably make it work. The Imperial Fists, if I were to accurately describe them, they would be a pointy rock at the end of a stick. Very effective, easy to use, you don't require much training or knowledge to understand how to use it, and more or less anybody could use it. Their name is the Imperial Fists. Their tactics are based on wearing things down through attrition and supplemental tactics using heavy weaponry. There's not much else to understand. They're pretty basic. They like bolters, they like melee, they have Torgaradon, and they are the main bastion against fucking everything. They build walls, they defend walls, they are great at crashing against their foes on all fields of battle. A good generalist force to deal with all threats. I think they are equal parts boring and very much integral to the setting. Primarch time. Torgaradon is probably up there for me as one of my favorite Primarchs. He is pragmatic without being fucking stupid like Torgaradon. Understands that encouraging selflessness for a greater cause is better for morale than killing someone who withdraws. He is stern and demands respect, but believes that even he is a resource to be used. A valuable resource, but one that shouldn't be treated more than that. Constantly correcting people for giving praise to him instead of the Emperor. He's a man who knows his dick is huge, but is a man enough to admit when someone else's is bigger. He has this mentality that is the best way to define how to look at the Imperial Fists as a whole. It's summed up in his Primarch book pretty neatly, and I'm going to butcher the ever-loving fuck out of it. Essentially, his warriors should always understand the broad sweeping goal and purpose for every battle that they're engaged in, and the plan to accomplish that goal should change, but the goal should never change. So a good example. Say there's a planet full of orcs. The goal? Kill all the orcs. Simple enough. It doesn't matter how. You could have plans of killing the war boss, killing the mechs, making sure that there's no supply lines, burning everything to the ground. But it doesn't matter how you change it and what ways you go about it, and so on and so forth. As long as the final goal should be kill all of the fucking orcs, that's kinda all that matters. That's kind of why I think the Imperial Fists ended up being the better choice for the protectors of Holy Terra during the Heresy era. Torgaradon and Torgaradon are often compared, or rather the Imperial Fists and the Iron Warriors are. I can kind of see why both do the whole siege thing, but after doing my research into the Imperial Fists, I kind of see where the difference is. Where the Iron Warriors are unbending and use the same tactics over and over and over again, and if they fail, you're just not doing them right. With the Imperial Fists, it's the exact opposite. They have to understand why they're on the battlefield, and as long as they understand why and stick to a plan, without allowing it to overwhelm their sense of reason, they can accomplish pretty much any goal. Another good example of what I mean is, in the Primarch book, there was a dispute between Lionel Johnson and Torgaradon, the Primarch of the Dark Angels and the Imperial Fists, respectively, where Torgaradon basically called the Lion a bitch, and the Lion, being the Lion, did not take that sitting down, so they organized an honor duel. A champion from one of the legions and a champion from the other legion would fight, and whoever won would have to apologize to the other. Kind of a dick measuring contest, but whatever. Imperial Fist guy loses, Torgaradon concedes, apologizes, admits to his fault, but then speaks to his champion in such an oddly fatherly way. So what happened was the Dark Angel's champion essentially used a sword and shield in a duel, which is very weird, and the champion of the Imperial Fist ended up using just a standard broadsword. a flurry of melee hits, a flurry of just pure aggression against the shield, hoping to push him back. He didn't have that purpose, that goal in mind of winning no matter what and changing his tactics to do so. He just did what he thought was right, which was swinging the sword and trying to batter the guy until he gave up. The other guy, the Dark Angel, believed that he was going to go in there, wear out his opponent, push him back with the shield, and the second there was an opening, he was going to take a swing. And no matter what happened, that's what his plan was. So he didn't waver, he didn't shirk from what he was planning on doing, and he just waited. And eventually, there was an opening, he pushed the guy back with his shield, and then beat him. That's when Rogel Dorn gives that little speech of understanding your purpose, that you shouldn't have just stayed there and said, I'm going to swing at him. You should have gone in there with the idea of, this is how I'm going to do it, and no matter what happens, I have to find a way to get to that point. It's a pretty interesting situation to be in. He doesn't scold his son for failing. He simply tells him that you can do better as long as you do this, which is a very important difference between him and Perturabo, where Perturabo probably would have just fucking ripped his head off and put it on a spike in front of all the other Marines to say, don't be like this guy, okay? And then replaced him. Perturabo is super unbending, where Rogel Dorn is stubborn, but flexible. So, the members of the Imperial Fists are a Codex-compliant chapter, sort of, where they have 1,000 Marines, divided into 10 companies, descended chapters, though they do have a love for heavily equipped assaults with shit like Centurions and big tanks. They do have an odd contingent. It's called the Last Wall Protocol, which is kind of one of the coolest names in 40k. Essentially what the Last Wall Protocol is if ever there was a moment where the Imperial Fists were in a bind. Like, world ending, Terra's about to burn, the Emperor's gone from his throne, that kind of thing. They could evoke what is called the Last Wall Protocol and call back every single Imperial Fists chapter to fight side by side with the rest of the Imperial Fists. Basically, get in, losers, we're making the Legion again. Which is cool. I think it's pretty interesting. Kind of heretical, but, like, it's fine. Their chapter master is Gregor Decian. Being the chapter master of the Imperial Fists, arguably one of the most well-known and well-regarded Space Marine chapters, he's such a cool guy that there is almost no information about him. Neat! It's okay. Captain of the 3rd Company, Torgaradon, is here to make you feel safe. I just love this model. I know I talked about him before, and I know I bring him up, but I almost played Minotaurs as Imperial Fists, and I was going to get a Torgaradon model. I just love Torgaradon. Look at this model. The dude's got a shoulder-mounted grav gun and a fucking massive power fist that's ×3 strength. If you don't know how to play 40k, that's stupid. That's silly. I don't think there's any other weapon in the game that has a ×3. It's so goofy looking, but in, like, a good way. He has the Imperial Fist. Speaking of fists and gloves and pain, I'd be remiss if I did not mention the Pain Glove. When a Space Marine fails in most chapters, they do get punished. They get demotions, they get reprimands, and sometimes outright killed. That's the interesting part about the Imperial Fists. There is an act of essentially self-flagellation that occurs when Imperial Fists fail, where they hop into this machine colloquially called the Pain Glove. It stimulates the pain receptors in a person's body on full blast for however long they want, and boy, howdy do they want. It's a little silly to think them get into just like this giant body harness that makes them feel the biggest ouchie you could ever imagine, but it's very Warhammery, I suppose. Here's where I give my opinion about the Imperial Fists and what you should know. If you like no nonsense, get to the fucking point style adventures, these are the dickheads for you. They very rarely have a sense of humor, they get the job done regardless of what is in front of them, take a week's vacation to heal, then they just do it again. They get their dudes from fucking Holy Terra, and they had another recruitment planet before, but like, whatever. So the unfortunate side effect of being the equivalent of butter on toast is that, well, they are a bit dull. But in their dullness, you can appreciate what they've got going on. They kind of remind me of an entire army of the Doomslayer, silently marching forward, stoically murdering anything in their path with horns or spikes or that. There is power in that aesthetic. See, I'm a bit biased. You want to know what my main Space Marine force is right now? The Black Fuck You Templars, the competitive racism champions of Holy Terra for the last 300 years. I love their aesthetic. And their flavor. Where the Imperial Fists are the butter on toast, the Black Templars are like char black burnt toast soaked in pre-workout right next to a bottle of Tren. Which is a steroid if you don't know. They're pretty plain. Their Primarch is pretty cool, and I think overall I'd give them a B+ of all the legions so far. Oh yeah, and their gene seed is apparently one of the most stable, non-mutative gene seeds out there, which is kind of cool. They have like a bunch of weird mutations that are just permanent for them. So they don't have the Betcher's gland, and they don't have, I think, one other organ. And for those who don't remember, the Betcher's gland is the one that lets them spit poison acid, which again makes it even less mentioned because the Imperial Fists are in a lot of books. So yeah, they don't see many other mutations other than that. Oh god, unless you're the Soul Drinkers. Jesus Christ. Hello. It's post-video Arthur here. I hope you liked that. For some reason, making a video about the Imperial Fists was just weirdly difficult. There's so much literature on them, but there's not much to say. At least not much that I want to say. It's a pretty simple chapter, so regardless, thanks again for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to be posting more frequently than usual starting next week because of, if you follow my community tab, you'll know why. But, yeah, thanks again for watching. Till next time.